very difficult issue to make sense on, because even the most rabid haters of guns, I mean, people who would argue for a gun ban, have many good points on their side, and even the gun nuts have many good points on their side. We obviously have a huge problem with guns. We've got 300 million guns on the ground. We've got 30,000 people dying every year who would not be dying but for the presence of guns. So guns make violence more lethal. They make suicide more effective and arguably more tempting.
They're well with the background checks, the age limit, and the way that they distribute them, and different type of guns and everything that goes with them. So I think that right now they're very well done, but any more restrictions, then you're going to start getting more and more angry people. When it comes to the restrictions on how many guns one can own, I don't think there should be any restriction on the how many or which, or even which type of gun.
Do I think the gun law should be stricter? And the answer to that is, I don't believe that making stricter gun laws will help cure the violence in this country. I really don't, because it's going to be the law-abiding citizens that hand their guns back in, and it'll be the criminals and those that don't abide the law, the ones that will be keeping the guns and causing violence. Even if we were to confiscate every single gun in this country, there would still be violence. I mean, people that have in them to kill, to murder, to inflict harm, will find a way to do that. Whether they have a gun, whether they'll pull out a knife, they'll make a bomb, they'll do it with their car. I mean, they're going to find ways to hurt others. So I think the problem of violence in this country goes much deeper than just the superficial gun laws. I think it really gets to the human heart, we've broken homes and folks that kids that are angry and don't know how to channel that into something more productive, and they really just it's society at large, and I think that's where the issue lies, in the human heart. With regard to stricter gun laws and age requirements, specifically in that in Ohio you have to be 18 years old to acquire, to buy a gun, and 21 for a handgun. And I do believe that that's appropriate. I mean, at that age you're going into the military, you can serve our country, you can die for our country, so I think that's an appropriate age limit, and I wouldn't change that. I think that's right on.
Limiting the amount of someone who buys an AR when they're 18 is, I can respect that, but when you're taking someone who wants to go hunting using a plain old slug barrel with a shotgun, that's too restrictive. I mean, you can see people when they were 13-year-old, they had a parent or someone who gave them a gun, who was always around, they weren't by themselves, they didn't have access to it unless they were hunting. So the age restriction right now at 18 is perfect, giving that you don't have the young reckless teenagers with going out there and buying guns, but you do have the more mature 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds that can buy guns.
I believe that it's important that we uphold the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which gives individuals, the right to keep and to bear arms. I think that it's very important that we protect that. That being said, I think there's some, we want to balance that with some common sense. And I think we've done a good job of that in the state of Ohio, and that's who I represent right now. I'm a state rep down in Columbus. So in Ohio, there's certain things that are required. I mean, you have to be 18 years old for a regular gun. You have to be at least 21 to have a concealed handgun. There are some competency requirements. You have to take training. There's 12 hours of training, 10 hours of instruction, and then 2 hours of actual practice with the gun itself. And then, of course, there are background checks. So, I think right now in the state of Ohio, we bring a good balance, strike a good balance between the Second Amendment and common sense. Because of the school shootings in recent history, that has come under the focus, a light, really lately, both at the federal level, but also at the state level. And I am sponsoring a bill. It's called House Bill 8, and it has to do with school safety. And currently in the state of Ohio, I don't know if most people know this, but guns are not allowed in schools. Now, people get that, but there are 3 exceptions to that. One is if you're an on-duty police officer. Number 2 is if you're hired by the school to be a security officer. And number 3, anybody that the school board names. So they could name your teacher, they could name a janitor, they could name, if there's a student that's old enough, they could name them to carry a weapon into school. That's current law. That is current law. What House Bill 8 does is it says, all right, if schools are going to start to arm teachers, we should at least at the state have a training program that's available to them should they choose to arm their teachers or janitors or staff, whomever. So that's what the bill says. It also allows off-duty officers to carry their weapons into school because those officers, they're trained. They're not going to lose their training as soon as they take off their uniform. And yet their instinct is to protect the public. So House Bill 8 does things like allow off-duty officers to carry weapons into schools and develop a training program, which is not mandatory, by the way. It would just be, it's permissive. That says if the school wants to send their teacher or janitor, whomever, the custodian, to the training program, they can, but they don't have to. So we're just making that available. So those are some of the things that we're doing at the state level to try to make it safer for not only our citizens, but specifically the schools.